Hey all, I'm Mayor Kyron Davis, Senior Producer here in Los Angeles. We've had quite a busy month since we last talked, so let's just dig right in. To start off, our ship team has been working on the Drake Buccaneer. Art has created a custom dual weapon mount, all LODs have been generated, the tech content team has implemented UV2s and damage, tech design is making their flight balance pass, which will get it ready for flight with sound, VFX is making solid progress as well. The Drake Buccaneer will be a great addition to the Drake lineup, and we really can't wait until you're in the cockpit. The ship team has also made a lot of progress on the newly revamped RSI Aurora. The white box phase is now complete, which includes a proxy laying out the space, establishing the animation positions, laying out the screens, and making sure the characters could hold the controls. We've started the final geometry on the cockpit in an effort to improve the inside of the ship. Now that tech design has implemented all the art updates into the ship's new archetype, the RSI Aurora is heading into gray box. It's been awesome to see all these different pieces come together and breathe a whole new life into an already great design. We're really looking forward to finishing up and getting it back in the air. There are a few other ships making their way through design, as well as a slew of quality of life bugs fixes for the upcoming 262 release, but we're not quite ready to reveal those just yet. In addition to ship production, the tech design group completed the design for multi-function displays, or MFD screens, which control power, heat, coolers, shields, weapons, countermeasures, and missiles in preparation for Item 2.0 functionality. These designer prototypes are meant to help us understand what's needed and see how everything will interact with each other. Once these designs have been approved, the amazing UI team will create an interface to take advantage of that functionality that engineering is implementing in the back end. Once the system's in place, a ship that is staffed by knowledgeable crew will be able to operate their ship beyond the default system settings and min-max the various ship systems to suit not only your playstyle, but potentially save your life during a devastating attack. This month, QA aided LA development, checking a variety of fixes for 262, while also providing support to Austin QA with PTU and live sanity checks, smoke tests, sweeps, and deployments, and helping new hires get up to speed with the game. As for feature work, the team swept ship destruction VFX, Item System 2.0, and implementation of recent loadout changes, and tested multiple iterations of new targeting and ESP code. For a quick reminder on quality assurance terms, a sanity check basically ensures the game loads, which is now automated, but still could take an hour and then another 30 to 60 minutes to investigate any error that arrives. A smoke test checks the basic functionality, but this takes 6 to 8 people roughly a day if there aren't any major issues. And a full sweep means checking everything you possibly can, a process which requires a much larger team and can take over a week. As you'd expect, full sweeps are most arduous, rigorous, and intense, but also incredibly important. Now over on the narrative team, they've been hard at work at some additional 3.0 missions. They've also started some much needed documentation for posters and props to help populate the world of Star Citizen. They've also made a lot of progress on the Xi'an history and society documentation by creating an equivalent time capsule approach for the Xi'an history from birth to present day. Also, those that saw the 3-lateral head test portion of GDC a few weeks ago, we can now talk about how the team has been doing breakdowns of ethno groups in the Star Citizen universe, utilizing the power behind that technology as our character customization is rapidly coming together. Now, the engineering team has begun work on the new shop entity that uses data core components. It will allow shops to easily be streamed in and object containers, which will be finished in the next sprint. The plan is to make shops more dynamic and reactive to the economy by retrieving their inventory from the back end. The engineering team also added a new attribute to vehicle XMLs that allow designers to specify the interior grid type of the vehicle, small, medium, and large. This is a pretty big optimization that will reduce memory storage, as all ships previously defaulted to medium size. Now, last time we discussed the development of the new light group entity that was equipped with a state machine to serve as the ultimate light switch. Now, the implementation of the core state switching functionality is complete. The next step is to start using the light group in our vehicles and environments and replace all instances of old layer switching method of light management. This new light group entity has allowed us to reduce the number of lights we've been using, which has dramatically impacted performance. For example, on the Drake Caterpillar, we were able to reduce from hundreds, almost thousands of entities down to 90 or less with no visual impact. And that's just the beginning. In the upcoming weeks, we will continue to evolve the light group with additional features based on feedback from other departments. We've been developing also a framework in IFCS, or Intelligent Flight Control System, for the autopilot to handle situations like a takeoff and landing sequence. This also applies to AI control. They'll be providing the AI developers with a set of tools for controlling the ship, like a move to or change to, etc. This will improve stability and predictability of ship motion under optimal conditions. There was also a large update to our room system and atmosphere containers, with the addition of several new features, as well as better debugging tools and several bug fixes. So far, the room system has only been implemented in a few locations, but these changes will allow us to fully implement rooms and atmosphere throughout the various locations and ships in the game. At the moment, all the airlocks you enter and exit are scripted events. They don't factor in atmosphere of any kind. With this new system, we'll be able to replace this setup with an actual room and atmosphere that allows for a dynamic experience. In addition to the room system changes, they've added a feature to allow the designers and artists to set wear and dirt parameters for loadouts. This functionality comes in 2 levels, overall as well as individual values for specific items. Wear and dirt values are used by the render node to set shader parameters that make items look old or dusty, scuffed up, and burnt out. You've seen an example of this on the module surface outpost seen in the last week's studio update. This task also used loadout editor side work, where the team added UI support to edit wear and dirt. We've recently also started working on a pretty massive task called the Entity Owner Manager. To give you a little background, this is a core feature required to take our gameplay from a multiplayer game to a persistent online experience. This system will be responsible for managing ownership and lifetimes of all the entities in the game, and will work in conjunction with the back-end persistent systems to indicate dynamic changes to the world that need to be tracked and persisted across sessions. The Entity Owner Manager will also need to work with various game and entity engine systems, including debris, salvage, criminality, streaming, missions, cargo, shop, and much more, to help create the persistent experience across clients and servers. In other news, the team has been working on scanning subcomponents, which require us to do some slight refactoring of the object data bank. Now the data bank can support the storage of child entities, which will be the subcomponents on ships, players, etc. In doing this, we also improved the thread safety of accessing data within the databank, which allows us to move some calculations onto other threads, which will help improve performance. This work is focusing on 2 big elements, the ping component and angle of focus. The ping component is the method in which a player or pilot will send out a wave to see if there are objects out there of note within their scan range. This could also be a ship, an asteroid, or even signal traces that mark whether a player entered or exited a quantum travel. Other players can detect these traces, which could have some pretty heavy game implications. For example, if you were an outlaw, it would allow you to track potential prey. Angle of focus allows players to adjust the angle with which they're scanning. A smaller angle will provide more range, but only contacts within the angle can be detected. We're currently refactoring the underlying radar query logic to use zone queries rather than a huge iteration of registered radar objects, which will make the scanning system much more efficient. Now, if you remember from our last update, our tech content team supports and implements every pipeline within Star Citizen and Squadron 42. One of the main focuses for this team is performance improvements. For instance, we changed our mesh vertex and position formats, which massively improves streaming of these meshes as well as reduces build size. They've also been improving the Python integration within our editor, which allows for faster development of Python tools usable by every department across the company. They can now script any sandbox process they want. For example, placing asteroids, generating modular outposts, etc. All of which saves a tremendous amount of development time on otherwise tedious and time-consuming tasks. You also may have noticed the players' helmets were disappearing once they got to a certain distance away from you. As discussed in the character customization featurette not too long ago, we've now converted all helmets to a .skin format. The conversion was important to allow a unified LOD ratio across the character skins, meaning no more helmetless people running around the verse. So don't be afraid. As the oxygen system comes online, we would hate to be the reason you lose that FPS battle on the dark side of the moon. To ensure this is easier in the future, Tech Content has also created tools that rig skins and exports automatically. This dramatically reduces dev time from potentially an entire day down to just a few minutes. Now that helmets are optimized, heads were next on the agenda. We've successfully converted all heads to use the human skin shader developed by our graphics team. Since we do 44 different areas of blended wrinkles and blended diffuse, our texture cost was quite high at about 100 megs per head. With this change, we were able to save roughly 90% of the original texture memory cost without a discernible visual impact. This means we can have a lot more characters in the scene without melting your graphics card. With the implementation of the female character progressing rapidly, we've transferred thousands of animations from male to female to complete her motion set and provide a data for animation to start iterating on. This will also allow us to focus on refinement and subtleties without compromising on what she'll be able to do when exploring the universe. There's quite a bit more to do, but we're making leaps forwards every day. Another character animation tool the tech content team has been completed is this track and report the number of various wild lines each character will have in the universe. With our over 1,255 pages of script for Squadron 42, which includes all storylines as well as wild lines, we needed a tool to continuously generate reports on how many we've completed and what we have left to solve. Once the various lines are all in, the system will be able to pull those lines based on player action and situation, and also randomize the potential wild line response so the NPCs aren't repeating the same line every time. To help our cinematics team focus on content needed for Squadron 42, a tool was written to allow for visibility of scenes before they even hit the engine. This allows for fast exporting of animations and preview renders, which are then automatically uploaded to Shotgun, which makes it much easier and faster to review the many hours of cinematics for Squadron 42. The character team has been blasting through the concept phase, the high poly phase, and onto the in-game mesh of the Heavy Outlaw. Next, it's going to go into rigging and implementation. We've also sent the light, medium, and heavy female marine armor, as well as the undersuit, to rigging and implementation. Once we had that male base suit done, we utilized a wrap technique with adjustments to save development time and ensure we're getting everything together as quickly as possible. Another suit that has moved through the high poly phase is the female explorer suit, so she'll be exploring the universe in no time. On the Squadron 42 character front, both the EVA deck crew and the Marine BDU have gone through high poly and are onto the in-game mesh and texturing phase, which means they should be in rigging and implementation in no time. In a category of things we can't talk about, we've continued developing the Vanduul as well as medium and heavy versions of the OMC Outlaw faction. And lastly, the mechanized Titan suit is in R&D along with other alien concept sculpts and a whole lot more that we can't reveal just yet. But stay tuned for updates in the coming weeks. Well, that does it here for Los Angeles. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you again soon.